This is Danny from Baltimore, Maryland, representing one of the 6 Wolves fans in Baltimore. You're listening to DU Football Show.
That one was just for you, Producer Mel. I know you appreciate that very, very much. Yeah, there I got the one-fingered salute from Producer Mel. Reason why I bring that up is because we're going to hold off on your shot of Malort because Danny's going to be in studio next week, and I feel like he should appropriately pour that shot for you.
Oh, thank you so
it's
much.
It's what you deserve. Let's start the show.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston.
Sam Houston?
Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Stump of a lord. Look straight in shorts. Sam Graham, hey.
Sam Graham.
Fucking United! Fucking United!
Hello and welcome to the DU Football Show, a completely biased recap of the English Premier League as told by 2 common American schmucks. I'm your host, Sam Houston, and of course, Mr. Graham still currently on paternity leave, so we bring in everybody's favorite dance bomb, and nobody's better than him, our good fed Mr. Brody. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, but it's only Monday. It can only get worse from here.
Exactly. And of course, on the ones and twos, Producer Mel. How you doing, Producer Mel?
It's the longest first couple days of February ever.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, you probably
Is this month over already?
Every day is the longest day.
I don't know about you, Alan, but are you pinching yourself still over the fact that we have scored 4 goals in 2 separate matches? Twice we have beaten teams 4-0.
Don't even know what to do about it.
It's the juggernaut that is a David Moisiola offense. You know, it's just what it is.
No, you know what it is?
Huh.
Another sign of the apocalypse.
I think my fantasy team for the rest of the year is just going to be just to poke Smokey, just different plays on Moyes.
We're recording at the DU Public House just outside the nation's capital. You can check us out wherever you get your pods. And, of course, streaming live every single Monday night. Should you want to chat with us, there are as many ways that you can. Producer Mel, tell the good people how they can get in touch.
Well, you can go ahead and send us a message during the show. If you're watching us on the live stream, I am checking all the chats. Or you can send an email in to dufootballshow@gmail. I'm too cool to say the .com.
Okay. Well,
And
you just said it.
no, I didn't. Can't prove a damn thing. And just go ahead and click on whatever media you're looking at right now, unless it is Kick or Twitch, because we don't check those.
Okay, very good. Well done, producer. I can't get Graham back here fast enough.
Nope.
Sam and myself both work in the wine and spirit industry and both have a deep, passionate love for all things distilled spirits. So is the red-blooded Americans we are. We vow to have a drink in our hand throughout this show and every single show. Mr. Brody, the list continues and we are on to number 12. Tell us all about it, good sir.
Well, it is Angel's Envy Cask Strength Port Wine, barrel finished, 2023. Checks in at 59.1%. That's a banger.
Yeah. Damn near close to $1.20.
This review is written by Jeffrey Lindenmuth, the executive editor of Wine Spectator, and he says, now in its 12th annual release, this is not entirely new, but it is the first edition to which master distiller Owen Martin, formerly of Stranahan's, lends his name. Following 5 to 9 years of initial aging, the selected barrels received a port finish. The impression left by the world's most prestigious fortified wine is undeniable. Aromas of chocolate-covered cherries, sandalwood, and leather lead to a chewy caramel palate filled with sweet dried fruit and licorice.
All right, so I'm going to have a couple opinions of this because I have to be honest. I have a bias about this brand.
A good way or a bad way?
I've never been a fan. I feel the port finish is too much. They do a long finish on it, and for me, it tends to be a little too chocolatey. They also do a rye that's done in rum barrels that, for me, also comes off a little too fruitcakey.
I get a bit of a perfume finish.
It is. I will say this is a very good whiskey. It is just not my style of whiskey. And the other thing that annoys me too is this with the list. And this is like a if you can find the 2023, which, by the way, full disclosure, we are drinking the 2024. Why? Because I wasn't about to pay $500 for the 2023 because it came out, it got released, it sold out, and you could only buy it on the secondary market. The 2024 was released right in the early January, and that's when we got it, and we got it for retail, which was about $200. You're lucky if you get it at retail. You're lucky if you get this one at retail. It is a fan favorite amongst a lot of whiskey drinkers. It's just not my cup of tea. And I recognize that it is a good whiskey. I have my own bias against it personally. It's just not for me.
It's bitter for me. It's hot, very peppery. I'm gonna be honest. This is not. I mean, I'm not a whiskey head by any stretch of the imagination, but having come here for a couple of the whiskey shows, I've had a fair few, and this probably not up there.
Brody, I would say drink the water off the melted ice, put it over ice. It's much better over ice. Now, a purist would say you're kind of ruining the thought process of what is a cask strength. But to that I say, hell no, I don't care. It's drink your whiskey the way you want to drink it. For me, it's a lot better with a little bit of a chill to it. But it's just not for me. It's not for me. Like I don't. No hate on the brand. There will be people who come over and drink this, and when we do the whiskey show, are going to absolutely love it. It's not for me. I think port barrels are best serviced for Scottish whiskey because I think barley can hang with the big finish that port gives more so than American whiskey, but it's good. I'm glad we got to it. I'm glad we were able to find the bottle.
Is this the most expensive one on the list?
No, that and the red breast were the two most expensive, which is also a bias that I have when the red breast and the Angel's Envy are the two most expensive bottles, and they're not even in the top 10. Like, you could have found something a little more affordable, and not even included these.
It's interesting. A couple years ago when we were here for the whiskey show, the red breast at the time, I can't remember what specific version it was. That was my favorite that we had.
So it was this series, the one you're looking at. It was a Kentucky oak, so it was brand new American white oak.
Yes.
This is a Missouri oak, so brand new American white oak. So same idea, finished in what would be a bourbon barrel, but it doesn't have any bourbon in it because it's the virgin oak of it. Yeah. But yeah, and when you have the Missouri oak when you're here, you will like that one too. You will like that one quite a bit. Yeah. So, what else should people always do when they're drinking there, Mr. Brody?
I believe we should drink legally if laws actually exist and responsibly.
That's a well-made point, sir. Cheers.
What's a law, anyways?
Optional.
Apparently.
It's the world we live in. It's the brave new world we live in.
Do we have to?
And you should be a little less lippy, Miss Thing. We open with a marquee match this weekend, and was it a comeback? No, it wasn't. Was it humbling? It sure as hell was. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1.
There was some kind of happening.
What a fucking statement by Arsenal. I mean, they came out and punched them right in the fucking mouth within moments, and frankly, it should have been 2-0. And Gabriel was barely offsides, and they really took it to him. Do we have our special guest caller on the line with us, Mrs. Houston?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well,
What we gotta do right here is go back.
I say what we got to do right here is not have music playing on the phone when we're trying to contact our special call-in person.
I wonder who our special call-in person might be.
We already know who the fuck it is. Hey, stud, how you doing?
He sounds.
What's going on?
Not much. You sound worn down.
I sound what?
You sound worn down. Are all 4 of your daughters disrespecting you?
I'm a little tired, yes. And just, it's over here being humble, man,
Humility is your strong suit. That's for damn sure. Mr. Graham,
that's it.
what a way to come out scoring right off the fucking bat and just punching City right in the face.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. We did fall victim to that thing where that we like to do of just kind of shrinking after we take a lead in a big game for about, 20 minutes at the end of that first half.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, I mean, we obviously steamrolled them in the second. But, scoring that first goal was massive. I think it kind of settled the nerves a little bit. And it showed that City, despite a couple of recent results, still aren't the City that we've come to know over the last 6 years.
Yeah, even with the signings, their defense is still in shambles. Their defense is really, and it can't. We keep making the excuse that it has to be Rodri, but that's world class players you spent a lot of fucking money on, and they are pathetic back there right now.
Pep is trying to play a system that he's used to playing, and he doesn't have the players to play it. They cannot play out of the back.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we just lost Sam Graham.
I have no idea what's playing. Oh, it's the show in the background.
Best producer in the business, folks.
Oh, I tell you what, she is going to have a blast editing this one, that's for sure. Good news for all you on the live stream. You get to hear this thing completely fall off the fucking tracks. Let us know when we got Graham back on.
Welcome to the shit show.
Yeah, I know. Where's my sounder? Come on.
Welcome to the shit show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry, not sure what happened there. Sorry, guys.
Well, they're probably not paying your bills because you lose all those gambling bets and you can't afford to send your children to college and shit like that. Probably that's what it is.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Should be more humble.
Now, here's the thing. Graham, a few things I wanted to bring up is, first off, you have 5 different goal scorers, and the second thing would be David Raya came up big when you needed him to, especially when you talked about that little 20-minute spell where you started to kind of shrink into the match a little. He made a couple of brilliant saves. And Gabriel, once again, inside of the head of Erling Haaland, running around rent-free by his ponytail, just running circles inside that man's head.
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, Haaland, at this point, Gabriel and Saliba should just call Erling Haaland Polly fucking Pocket, because that's all he is a little blonde toy that they play around with every time we play them. He went, what was it, a 27-minute stretch without touching the ball?
Right. Now,
and this is a staple for him at Dortmund. Obviously, we talked about this when he was first coming in the league, where he can be anonymous, but he only needs 7 touches a game to score a hat trick, right? We've seen that before, but he wasn't even really threatening in this match, besides that one moment that he caught a little bit of space and got the wrong side of Saliba. He's obviously tall, strong, he's got a good leap on him. He's a good header.
Very good header.
Other than that, he did nothing in this game, really. And I love Gabriel giving it to him. The fans gave it to him. 17-year-old Miles Lewis Skelly gave it to him.
That was beautiful.
I mean, and
that was beautiful.
That's what happens when you're a prick, right? And this is why we say, don't be a cunt. I mean, this is what you deserve when you're a cunt.
Graham, I need you to walk. I need you to walk through that Lewis Skelly goal, not just the goal, which was beautiful, but the celebration. I mean, what's going on through your mind when he sits down there and does that yoga Holland thing? You've got to be just loving it.
I mean, nothing actually went through my mind at all, because all of the blood rushed to my massively erect penis.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
When that happened. So I wasn't actually thinking about anything because I was so rock solid. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much what happened.
And that's the story of how Sam Graham has a 5th daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. No, it was obviously it was glorious. It was, I like that they hold grudges. We've said a few times over the years, Arsenal tend to have a bit of a soft underbelly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think back to some of the battles of Old Trafford, right? And Martin Keown getting in the face of Van Nistelrooy is the obvious one that jumps to mind. When he missed that penalty back in the day, and I think you're seeing this Arsenal team begin to really develop their backbone, begin to really just have that little bit of anger and ruthlessness to them that you need to win stuff, right? And the fact that they held this grudge, it was almost like they did to West Ham, right? When you know, they had that poor result against West Ham earlier in the season and came back and absolutely drubbed them.
Right. Well,
you know, at their building. It's holding that grudge. It's being angry. I know.
Speaking of holding grudges,
I was going to say, which one's visiting us there?
Multitasking. I love it.
It's Avery. I've got to get her ready for bed. Here. Relax, man.
You just got to allow her to be in the pantry like she likes to do. Crawl in the pantry, close the door, and leave me alone. That's where I want to be, Dad.
I was actually in my bedroom. The baby started crying downstairs, so Carly had to drop this one off and go tend to her. So, a lot of moving parts to get me on the phone these days.
Well, you know, totally understand. I wanted to then let's keep it short so that you can get to Dad time here. For Arsenal, do you feel that you are now firmly back in the title race? Do you think that this is going to put pressure on Liverpool?
Yes, it puts pressure on Liverpool. I worry that City obviously have great players. They can turn it on. It's about kind of getting out of their own way, so to speak. So Liverpool still have to play City this season. There's potentially a drop 3 points. You've got Arsenal still have to play Liverpool for the second time this season. Granted, that's going to be at Anfield, so a bit more difficult.
Right.
But there's a potential for 3 more drop points. That makes the gap 3 points, right? All things, if everybody does their job to that point, that makes the gap only 3 points. Now, the goal difference is going to be a massive part to overcome. That's why I think it was very important for all 5 of those players to get a goal that did. It just shows the confidence in the team. Kai Havertz, especially, who's been bereft of confidence for the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially when he missed that one earlier in the match, too.
Right, exactly. It kind of galvanizes and brings those players up to a point where they believe they can do it themselves, which is so important. So are we in the title race? Yes, we're in the title race. 9 points, provided Liverpool beat you on Wednesday, which isn't a given.
Well, I would say, especially considering Everton's form and that this, obviously, with the exception of there could be a cup draw, but this in all likelihood is the final Merseyside derby at Goodison, and Everton starting to play well. This could be a bit of a slip game for Liverpool because it's happened before. Yeah,
absolutely. So, all that being said, those 3 games there potentially is your 9-point gap made up.
Right.
Now it's, can Liverpool stay the course the rest of the season? The goals, they've got 30 goals in Mo Salah. We don't have that player.
No,
goal difference is going to be really difficult to overcome, I think. Because even if there are those, say they do lose those 3 games, you got to figure they're probably walking out of there with a -4 differential in those 3 games total.
Right.
So, I think we're behind 12 or 14 goals or something like that.
Right.
So it's a huge gap to make up. Now, that being said, we still have our second Southampton voucher. There's still games where we kick that up a little bit.
Right, of course.
But, and that's, again, provided we have to be perfect. And Liverpool have to fuck up 3 times.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
That's, yes, we're in the title race. The manner in which the statement win that I talked to you about that we needed a couple of weeks ago following Tottenham, following the cup exit, really.
Right.
That statement win we needed, we got. Right. We showed our intent. We showed our hand. We're showing our teeth as a football club. And Liverpool need to respond to that. They have a very difficult game, like you said, on Wednesday. Emotionally charged game at that. So, maybe that could start something. And, of course, there's always injury potential. There's always all sorts of things that could factor in.
Well,
but, yes, as of now, we are back in the title race.
Well, Graham, remember, this Wednesday, they've got their cup draw with Tottenham. and then it's the FA Cup.
Oh, and then it's FA Cup.
Everton,
You're right. Yeah,
And then it's
that's
Everton,
next
so-
Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's
No. This Wednesday's Everton.
No, Wednesday the
no.
12th is Everton.
Yeah, it's the cup, it's the Carabao, it's the League Cup, then the FA Cup, then the game against Everton.
Everton. yeah, the
Oh,
12th.
that's weird that they did that then, because I was trying to get the fantasy stuff to send to
I
Mel
noticed
for
that
later.
too. Yeah.
You can
And
still-
they included, that's why I thought it was this Wednesday, because they included the Everton game on this
Right.
week
They should have
fantasy
added it.
stuff
They should have added it to the next week's. It's weird.
to the following week.
Yeah.
Exactly. They should have started the next game week. That's really strange. Sorry about that.
So, Graham, still send your fantasy stuff to Mel because we're going to talk about it real briefly on injury time.
Okay.
And should somebody want to find injury time, Mr. Graham, how do they go about doing it?
It's super simple, actually. Haven't done this in a while. Feels kind of good to horn myself out. It's patreon.com/DU Football. So sign up for that $5 tier. And you'll normally hear me and Sam talk about the upcoming week's fixtures and a bunch of other kind of nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for y'all tonight, it's Brody, but
Hey, Mel, that's how you fucking do it, okay? Just want to let you know that. Mr. Graham, we're going to be nice. I'm not going to hang up on you this time. We'll talk to you later, okay, brother?
All right, thanks, guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Brody, be good, man. Thanks for helping out, my friend.
Doing my best to sit in the number 2 chair.
All right, sweet. Hey, Mel, do better. All right.
All right, Brody. I turn the question to you that we posed to Sam. Is this the jumpstart? Can this be what gets Arsenal over the finish line? Do we have a title race, perhaps?
It's going to be tough. I'm obviously don't have red colored glasses on for either side. But I mean, the injury that they have, injuries, I guess they have, but Saka is a big miss. And they, as Graham said, they really need to get production from all sides, whether that means Martinelli, Trossard. I mean, Havertz really needs to step up. I mean, you started to see that, and that was a big win. Don't get me wrong, but it's one game. I think need to see that more consistently. So it could be, but I think it's this is less about can Arsenal keep the pace, and more about is Liverpool going to stumble somewhere.
Right. Well, that's what I wonder too, because with the exception of City, any other team that's held the lead has typically stumbled at some point. City's the only one that seems to be able to just go into another level. But with that being said, let's turn the attention on to City. Are City done?
I think so. I mean, they're definitely out of the title race. I think it's a big question whether they finish top 4. And
I tend to agree.
I think right now they're sitting in 5th. I think Chelsea's win today bumped them out of the top 4. But I mean, they're right there with Newcastle's right there, Bournemouth's right
yep,
there,
all within 1 point.
And then there's like a trailing pack, just somewhere between 3 and 5 points back.
Right.
The way they're playing and the defense, which we talked about, the non-existent defense, they looked bereft of confidence. They looked, I mean, they're not even starting De Bruyne, which is, I mean, I'm not sure what's going on there, if there's something going on behind the scenes. It's trouble time for them. Yeah. I really do. I really think so.
I very much tend to agree. And what did they go and do? They spent another $150 million this transfer deadline. And if you're not in Champions League and you're suddenly in Europa or in the McRib, that'll affect your bottom line.
And they barely got out of the Champions League group play thing.
Yeah,
I mean, by
barely.
the skin of their teeth.
Yeah.
So it's not like, some competitions, Villa, great example, they high flying in in Champions League and having some stumbles in the league, right?
Of course.
City just looks, any game you go to, I heard one of the ESPN commentators, who we won't get into that, said they wouldn't even be favored against Southampton, which I think might be a bit of a stretch, but there's not a lot of. I mean, I'm looking at going over to Goodison in April. The only game I can make it is Man City, and I'm like, beginning of the season. Now I'm like, we can get something out of that.
Oh yeah, we can probably get a point out of that one. It's not. Just got to play them right, and you got to frustrate them. And if you can make sure you minimize the damage that Haaland can do, right? Because, as Sam said, he only needs one.
Right.
He only needs one. And if you can minimize what he can do as far as damage does and you take him out, it's like playing against 10 men. Right. And they can be got.
The best part of that game, though, I have to say, and yes, there were a lot of great memes in the closed group, but I don't know if you heard after the game, the PA announcer played Humble by Kendrick Lamar. just low-key shithousery. Gotta love it.
Oh, you gotta love low-key shithousery for a guy who just won a Grammy for shit talking and is about to do the Super Bowl halftime show with shit talking. Now we move on to 2 blowout victories from sides that are typically known for defensive fortitude, not offensive. Nottingham Forest 7, Brighton 0, Everton 4, Leicester 0. So the first thing people are going to look at when you see the Forest match is you're going to go, okay, Chris Wood scored another hat trick. That's not the storyline. Alenga and Gibbs White ran buckshot on Brighton. They owned the entire offensive side, Brighton's defensive side of the field. No one could take a ball off of their foot. They were responsible for almost all the assists. Alenga had a hat trick of assists. And behind him, Anderson just picked up everything that got knocked out and put it right the fuck back in. I mean, Brighton looked lost.
What's up with teams on the South Coast giving up 7 goals or maybe 9 goals? I mean, this was the early game, so of course, we didn't really, for me anyways, it wasn't center of attention, but, I saw I think it was 3-0 at halftime. Okay, fine. All right. Well, maybe Brighton's still in this. And I mean, they did not let their foot off the gas. You could tell I think they were a little pissed having come off that 5-0 defeat to Bournemouth last week. This was an answer to that and a good one obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure felt pretty embarrassed, pretty shell shocked at that performance, and they came back with a vengeance.
Yeah. And I was talking with a couple of people like on, text and stuff like that as that game was going on. And when it got to 6, I was like, ooh, Southampton fans are suddenly interested in this game because 9 is on the table. And they should have scored. Honestly, they should have scored 9. They really should have.
I mean, I didn't see the full game, but just the highlight package showed that there were plenty of additional chances. But what I was most impressed about from a Forest perspective is, they're up 6-0 and they're still pressing. They're still going after the ball. I mean, granted, that's the point in the game when you have a lot of subs in who are looking to try to make a mark and, take advantage.
Pushing the action because they're trying to get a goal. They're trying to make something happen.
And, that last goal was just a mess. I mean, Verbruggen passes it right to Jota Silva.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a calamity of errors, which is not the only time we'll be talking about defensive calamity of errors.
We'll get back to Forest in a second. What in the hell is going on with Brighton right now? I mean, it can't just be young coach, young team, because there are some veteran players on that squad. Like, just doesn't seem, it seems so disjointed.
They're streaky, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, they had won or they had gone like 6 games without losing, and now it's only 2 losses, but 2 losses against, we're Everton fans, and it was a great win. But that's a game that at home you should win. This performance, I mean, look, the only thing you can say if you're Brighton is we forget about that as quickly as we can and we move on. I don't know who they play next, but just to move on, get past it, and hopefully that was their one slip up. Major slip up, and you take some confidence. In the same way, maybe that's what you look at. You say, look, Forest got crushed 5-0 last week, came back,
responded.
Right. So, again, not sure who they play next week.
Right. They're in the cup, so I don't know who they have.
But, you'd have to imagine their next game, they really need to come out and make a statement. I mean, they're still fine. They're not in any trouble being relegated. They're not. No. I don't think they're really serious.
They'd like to try to get to Europe, and they're not away. I mean, depending on how Europe pans out, 10 teams can get in from England with the way Europe is working because everyone advanced so far, right?
Right.
And it depends if a Newcastle wins the League Cup, they're already in a European spot. suddenly a spot behind them opens up. You know, that's how that rolls.
I think they're just kind of disjointed. They're just inconsistent is really what they are. I mean, João Pedro can have a great game one week, and then the next week he'll disappear. Kaoru Matoma, great game. They have some really good young players. I really like the kid Minte who came over from Newcastle. He's really good. You know, they just I think they just sold Ferguson to
West Ham.
or loaned him to West Ham. He wasn't really playing much anyways. He must have fallen out of favor. But, I mean, they have some good young pieces. And they still have, like, the Lewis Dunks of the world who, by the way, Lewis Dunk, this is a great thing. Lewis Dunk, he's the one who, on the first Gibbs-White cross, he was ended up an own goal.
Right.
And then he gave up, and then defensively, they gave up 7 goals. -3 fantasy points.
Wow, that is bad.
And he played the full 90 minutes.
Wow.
So he had the +2 from that and -5. That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah,
And no
It
cards.
takes a lot of work. Yeah. It takes a lot of work to be that bad. I kind of feel like they still had a hangover from the way they lost to Everton. It looked like we shouldn't have lost that game. How did we lose that game? And they came out kind of flat against Forest. And finally, final thought on Forest is we squarely got to think they're this year's Villa, right? They're right in the driver's seat to make its Champions League, don't we think?
3rd place. I mean, the question has always been with them is can they keep it up? But they have all the pieces. We've talked about Gibbs-White. We've talked about Alanga Wood. I mean, they have those pieces up front. Their back line has been great this year. I mean, you kind of keep waiting for them to slip up.
And they just don't.
And
they don't.
Right. Like last week you thought, okay, this is the Forest that we thought. And they respond this way. You're like, okay. Maybe they've got it in them to last all year.
Well, and then we move on to, like I said, the sweet footballing science of David Mosiola. Who would have expected it? Everton scores the fastest home goal in a Premier League match and the 4th fastest goal ever in a Premier League match. What stood out for me for these first 3 goals is all 3 of them were long passes from their defensive half of the field into space, attacking the goal. And Leicester did nothing about, I want to credit my team for doing something really good and looking really good. But that is 3 massive fucking mistakes on the first 3 goals. And it was the same fucking mistake every fucking time.
As much as we like on this show to trash Wout Face, and he was bad this game. Even worse, Vestergaard was terrible. Awful. I mean, he wasn't attacking. I mean, he's 6'6", 6'7". He wasn't on the first goal that Doucouré had in 10 seconds. He was like backing up. I don't know where he was going. He was like almost on the right on the right side there. Allowed Doucouré with. I mean, Beto just bodied off. I think it was Face. Doucouré came into the space they created. Probably a little fortunate touch. Boom. And Goodison is rocking in 10 seconds. Nuts.
And then Tarkowski from behind midfield with a pass that wasn't even like a long Route 1 ball. It was about waist high, just a bullet that Beto ran right onto.
Oh, he meant to do that. It was not like it was not like a hopeless.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing. And then Beto scores the exact same way Doucouré did. Off with defender on his left shoulder with his right foot right in the back of the net. I mean, if I'm a coach, I'm fucking losing it on my center backs at halftime. Like, how do you let that happen? And then I would be looking at my striker and my attacking midfielder and being like, how do you let the goalkeeper and the starting center back fucking have the first 2 assists of the game? How do you let them have that easy of a pass? I mean, Tark's was jokingly easy.
But it was also
a
beautifully weighted.
Yeah.
Right.
But that was way too, that was like when Tottenham stood back on Mickey Keggers and went, go ahead, we dare you to shoot it. And he ripped it in the back of the net. It was like
a game Vardy was at, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought it up.
There you go.
Vardy stepped back and was almost like, yeah, I dare you. And he went, okay, fine. Here, great, goal. 2-0. How you feel?
Right.
Like, it was just... again, it's like I want to give all this credit to my team because I'm so happy to see that they're scoring goals and that just a very simple, not even a massive switch in playing style. It's just a coach that goes, this is how I'm going to use my pieces. I realize what their strengths are, as opposed to the prior coach, which was, this is how we play football. Fuck you, do it this way.
Yeah.
And I want to give so much credit to Everton for making these changes. Leicester are fucking dog shit, man. They're really fucking bad.
They look every bit like a championship side. And which is crazy to think because, look, we say it often here. It wasn't that long ago that they were champions, which is crazy. They
won the fucking league.
Right, and they obviously lost a lot of pieces. Their defense has never been really their strong suit, I don't think.
Of course not.
They really have never. But some of the personnel choices, they have a young kid from Italy, Caleb Akoli, who, for reasons that I can't understand, is sitting on the bench while Jan Vestergaard is fucking around, while Wout Face is fucking around.
Right.
I mean, they're at the point where they, obviously
same point Sean brought up last week when we had him on the show. Exact same point.
Yeah.
Was why is this kid not playing?
Right.
Why?
Right. He came on eventually, 60 minutes in, when it was already 4-0, 3-0,
Right.
3-0, I guess.
Right.
But, it was, even before we get there, I think we have to talk about the Jimmy Garner pass.
Oh, my God.
That was pure six. It was, oh, my God. This was a pass that, if you haven't seen it, came from the far side of the center circle, and it was inch perfect. All on the ground, and found Beto streaking through. Simple finish, and 3-0. Goodison is rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Well, and again, a probing ball from the defensive half of the field that went right down the center of their defense, and a striker just ran onto it.
The interesting thing is that last week, Everton lost DCL to what looks like a fairly significant hamstring injury, and lost Ora Mangala to a probably season-ending ACL injury. And there were some questions. Oh my God, how are we going to replace, these guys? And it just so happened Garner came back last week, got some minutes off the bench.
Jimmy G got this,
and looks like he's slotted right in perfectly.
Well, and it's also someone we forget how integral he was last season because he's just been hurt, so we just haven't known what to do. And the other bigger thing too for Everton is we talk of David Moyes coming in. He's simply playing the guys that Thelwell went out and bought. That
Jake O'Brien, perfect example.
That and Lindstrom playing that Dyche refused to fucking play. Refused to play him. No, they're not ready yet. They're not ready yet. Well, Moyes goes, no, fuck it. I want to put him on the right.
And putting them on in positions, particularly O'Brien. O'Brien is a center back. He's 6'6". He's a 6'6" ginger. He looks totally out of place on the right.
Of course.
And he has been locked down. I think Ashley Young has had a nice season over there on the right, but clearly Father Time is catching up to him, and you're going to stick this kid in there. You have faith in him, and look what's happened in the last couple of games.
Well, and then you get to use Ashley Young exactly how he's intended to be used. Is
late game sub.
You let Lindstrom run around like a madman all game, and you tell him to run himself into the ground and try to make things happen. And then you go, we need to shore up defensively. We'll put Ashley Young, which is essentially like putting a right back out there in front of the right back, and go, we got this. Nice and simple.
Now, for all of the great offensive play that Everton had in that game, there was one highlight that I'm not sure a lot of people caught. That was my favorite part. It came in the 36th minute. I was keeping track of this, and it went a little bit like this from the Goodison fans. Your bird is a grass. Your bird is a grass. Oh, Jamie Vardy, your bird is a grass. And that happened, if you're not familiar with the whole Wagatha Christie thing and his wife Rebecca and Rooney's wife, blah, blah, blah. Just Google it. One of the best chants ever. And that happens, I think to myself, oh, shit, he's going to score now.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to score.
He barely touched the ball.
No, he was completely taken out of the match.
Yeah.
That was a concern when we were discussing on injury time Vardy always seems to get one on Everton. And frankly, this is their problem. They don't have a very good midfield. And then you've got a guy like, when Vardy was scoring, the reason why he was scoring is because Buenanote was out there creating opportunities for him to score. Vardy is a run into the ball, fox in the box kind of guy, no pun intended. That's what he does. It's what he does very well. If no one's getting him the ball, how the fuck can you expect him to score goals? And then they have nobody on the pitch that'll get him the fucking ball. And their best players are on the sideline. Like
Mavadidi on the sidelines. I know they have some injury issues, but like every team does at this point. I mean,
everybody has injury
That game
issues.
could have been 5 or 6-0 at halftime, right? Very easily.
The only time I really forgive injury issues is when what has happened to Newcastle last year, what's happened to Spurs this year. But even with Spurs, I say Newcastle figured out a way to be top 10. You're playing awful. Like, you need to do better. But, like, I can understand a team that legitimately 8 starters and 2 guys who come in off the bench have been injured, where, like, literally a whole starting lineup is essentially hurt. I get that. But everybody else, you miss a couple, 2, 3 players. You do. And then Van Nistelrooy not wanting to play probably his most talented players is directly why they're going down.
Right.
I don't see where they're going to stay up. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, on the back of that performance, I mean, granted, look, last week they beat Spurs at Spurs, which is a nice win, but maybe doesn't look all that impressive given Spurs' recent play.
Right, of course.
I mean, I just don't think Vardy, yes, is limited at this stage of his career, but their defense is just horrible. I mean, the fourth goal was, I mean, cue the Benny Hill soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it was like 3 guys who ran into each other, and just Njai nicks the ball off. Thank you very much. Goal, run to the corner flag.
Yeah.
Fun day at the office. I mean, but yes, I mean, based on the teams that are around them in the table, right? I mean, I guess they're now behind Wolves. You look at Wolves. You look at Wolves compared to Leicester. I mean, 2 teams we both beat 4-0 at Goodison. But I mean, to me, Wolves has exceedingly more talent.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in Oso as well. But I'll tell you what, it's been a while since Everton have won 3 in a row, and it's been a while since we've scored goals. It's been a while since we've looked at ourselves and gone, you know what, we're probably safe. At this point of the season, for the last 3 years, we were like, fuck, what's going to happen?
Like what I said on Sean's podcast, or not on the podcast, but as a note on Twitter, I said, it's time we start looking up the table and not down the table, because Everton is now 9 points clear. When a couple weeks ago we were, all hearts racing, not sure what was going to happen. It just goes to show how quickly things can change in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would just love to be comfortably fucking 12th. Rounding out the rest of the league, so that happened. Liverpool 2, Bournemouth 0, Fulham 2, Newcastle 1, Southampton 2, Ipswich 1, Wolverhampton 2, Villa 0, Tottenham 2, Brentford 0, Palace 2, Manchester United 0, Chelsea 2, West Ham 1. Don't overlook what a good fucking win this was for Liverpool when they weren't playing their best. Arsenal lost in that building. Manchester City lost in that building. Like, the vitality is not an easy place to go to. The cherries are on fucking fire right now, and Liverpool figured out a way to get a win. That's what a champion should do.
And it took a very questionable penalty call for them to get on the board. I mean,
questionable penalties.
That's true. I mean, Lewis Cook bundles into Gakpo in the box. Boy, I mean, I watched that replay several times. I'm just like, really? I mean, was it clumsy? Yeah.
Right. But
I mean, you see plays like that all the time that are just not called, and you're just like, man, that is the Liverpool. That is the Liverpool magic right there.
Right.
Like, they just get calls that nobody else does. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have won that game eventually anyways.
Right.
But that gives them a certain amount of breathing room. They go into halftime up 1-0 on the back of that, and then they can play a little more free. Salah ends up with a second beautiful goal credit where credit's due. But boy, that penalty, super soft.
Yeah, it's bigger clubs get that. They always seem to. They always seem to when they need that penalty, they get that penalty.
And it was wide open. I mean, there were chances on both sides. I mean, Semenyo is a great player. I love watching him play. He's not scared at all. He's always looking to move forward, always looking for the shot. I mean, he had one rocket that just caromed off the frame. He easily had Allison beat. And they just had a couple of unfortunate deflections, but they have they've lost so many players this year. I mean, Evan Nielsen had
Unal.
And Unal with the ACL. I mean, they're literally playing Dango Ouattara, who is a converted right wing back,
right?
Is playing forward and playing well for that matter.
We like to call that a Mikel Antonio.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, so the fact that they're as high on the table as they are, impressive.
Well, and not for nothing, they're a point out of Champions League. That's how tight it is right now. Even and we're going to move on to Newcastle next, is even with Newcastle not playing well and having a couple of real bad slip-ups, including losing badly to Bournemouth at St. James Park and then losing this game to Fulham, but both of them are right in it. Chelsea doesn't seem to want to figure out what they're going to do. They love to give away leads, and they figured out a way to get a win today, but they've been less than impressive. And City can be got.
It's there for the taking.
So who are we to not say that the Champions League is Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, and Bournemouth,
right,
or Forest and Newcastle?
Yeah.
That is not out of the realm of possibility, or hell, depending on if and when Villa get knocked out of the Champions League, they could come on strong at the end and they could find themselves in it.
If I showed you, if I could go back in time 10, 15 years and I showed you the table currently for this year, people would laugh at you.
Oh, yeah.
First, I mean, Bournemouth even in the Premier League, first of all.
Right.
Forest in the Premier League, I mean, but they are every bit worth the place they are on the table. And I think they will be there until the end.
Oh, these promoted sides have figured out a way to be successful.
Brentford, Brighton, Forest.
Yep. And you think of, Leicester, who won it. Now, the only thing that worries me for any of those teams is when a couple of signings go wrong.
Right.
Or a season doesn't go the way you need it to. Like, that's the only thing I fear for them, and that's the kind of security that I find in a club like ours is like almost too big to fail kind of situation, Barely. I mean, barely, but still figure out a way to stay up. I don't know if that's I could see any one of those teams having a Leicester season, because remember, before the year they went down, they were 5th place and won the fucking FA Cup.
Right.
And then next thing you know, they're relegated,
Well, and for Bournemouth, I mean, the hottest commodity they have right now isn't anyone on the pitch. It's their coach.
Oh, it's absolutely Areola.
And so the question is okay, he'll stick it out through this year, but are they going to be able to hang on to him? And then what happens to them if he leaves in the summer?
Well, and who does he go to, right? Because
does
really,
he stay in the Premier League, or does he go?
Right, because really the only Premier League job that's going to be there is going to be Spurs.
Yeah,
that's really it.
Possibly United. If things continue to go.
Yeah, it's true. Could be.
Yeah. And hell, look, I wouldn't rule out the fact that Guardiola might hang. I mean, there may be more jobs there than we think there are.
That's fair.
But
also then you look at going on to the next match, Marco Silva's name's going to be in people's mouths as well, because here Fulham played a very good game on the road and they got a win, and they deserve all the credit in the world for that. But there has to be some level of the microscope pointed at Newcastle for the fact that St. James is a fortress and a very hard place to play in, and they've now lost 2 in a row, kind of inexplicably. Especially like the Bournemouth game, they had no answer. And in this match, it was like, you had the lead. How do you not see this? What's going on, guys? This is, if you want to be in Champions League, if you want to be 4th place, You have to win this fucking game. This is exactly the game you have to fucking win.
When you're up, I mean, this is the first win for Fulham in 16 years. I'm sorry, first win for Fulham at St. James's Park in 16 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a game when you're up, with 60 minutes on the clock.
Right.
Don't take anything away from Fulham. Great comeback.
They played a very good game, right?
But Newcastle had many, many opportunities to put this game away, and they just did not take advantage of it.
That's where I tend to, for some weird reason, I have more faith in Bournemouth being in the 4th Champions League spot than I do Newcastle. I mean, honestly, I think if everything's equal, I think it's Chelsea, because I think overall talent and I think overall managerial style and things of that nature, I feel like that's the team that probably deserves to get 4th. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bournemouth. And frankly, after that kind of a loss for Newcastle, Bournemouth deserves it more. They do. They just simply do.
I mean, Fulham, again, as I mentioned, credit to them. Raul Jimenez is having a nice little comeback year. And he's one of those guys that, for me anyways, I kind of root for him.
Yeah.
Given that horrible injury he had, 3-4 years ago? I can't remember how long ago it was. You thought his career was done. And he's come back and really reestablished himself. And I want to give a shout out to American Anthony Robinson. He has become a former Evertonian. Bothers me that we let go of him, but I understood at the time. We had Leighton Baines right behind him. We had Luca Dean. I mean, he wasn't ever going to get any playing time, but Robinson has, so he has 10 assists this year, second only to Mo Salah.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
he just has a nose for finding people in the right places.
He's playing Champions League ball next year. I have a feeling that Arsenal will go in for him real hard. Yeah, I certainly think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, they could use someone on the left side.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Saints get a win. You know what? Credit to them. It's of course because I threw out the whole Derby County curse on them last week, because I was looking at their schedule and just going, who are they going to beat? Well, clearly it's Ipswich that they're going to beat. I kind of feel like both of these teams are dead man walking now.
Well, now, I mean, that is a potentially devastating loss for Ipswich. I mean, that's a game that, credit to Sean last week, who mentioned that he thought Southampton would win this game. Ipswich has multiple times this season has had performances that leaves you raising your eyebrows, thinking, they've got something kind of like a Luton last year.
Right.
But this loss is potentially fatal.
If I just said for Newcastle, if you want to be in Champions League, that's a game you have to win. If you want to stay up Ipswich, this is a game you had to win. You had to win this game, and you didn't. And the good thing for them, they got a lot of sellable pieces. They're going to make a lot of money if they go down. I do worry about the Luton scenario, because Luton's second to last.
Just noticed that, yeah.
You know, and we'll talk about that on the EFL show. But I worry about that for them. But they've put together a good team. Right. They've got assets that they're going to be able to sell and make a lot of money off of. They're going to get good money for Hutchinson. They're going to get good money for Delap.
Yep.
And they'll have the parachute payment. All well and good. But at the same time, here was your chance in your building against the wounded animal that is Southampton. I think the last time they won a game was us.
Everton.
And that was in November.
Right.
Here's your chance, and you failed miserably. I mean, that just terrible from them.
Left the door open, and then 87 minutes or so, you have Sulemana coming down the left flank. Great shot. Great save. And this hulking beast of a forward they have, Onuachu, who's 6'11".
Just giant.
Just the first to react, and game, set, match. I mean, that is a horrible loss for Ipswich.
Oh yeah. Now we'll talk about Villa in a second. I wrote the notes with Villa first, but let's go ahead, because this segues directly into what's going on at the bottom of the table. This is the kind of game, if you're a team that's going to survive, you figure out a way to win.
It's the anti-Ipswich.
It is. It's a local Midlands derby. It's in your building. It's a very good team that has not won in your building except for the COVID year in 13 years.
Wow.
You know this team well. You've played them in the championship. You've played them in the Prem. They're a longtime rival. You figure out a way to get all 3 points. Was it pretty? No, not at all. If anything, I mean, Mel, you said it best. You were like, this game was ugly and chippy at best. That's what this game was. But why do Wolves stay up and why do Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton go down? Because they win games like this. This is a carbon copy of what we did over the last 3 seasons. You figure out you got Chelsea in your building and you beat them. You have Manchester United in your building and you beat them. You figure out a way. It ain't pretty, but you win. That's what Wolves did. They figured out a way to fucking win.
Oh, it was ugly. It was fierce. It was chippy. It was cards galore. It was both sides mad at the refs. Blood. And at the end of it, we can't seem to score when we need to. And Watkins, I guess the pressure's off of him now that Duran's gone.
Now he's injured, though. How big is that? I mean, I haven't seen any reports on...
We did sign
Rashford.
Who
and
didn't you
Asinan.
sign?
Yeah, like we might have won this transfer signing, so I think we're going to be okay.
I want to get to some of that, actually. But I mean, you know, losing Watkins, I mean, I know he's had some fits and starts this year, but I still think he's an exceptional player. And if they lose him for any extended period of time,
It's a problem. It's a problem.
Because all those guys they may have signed, none of them are really a cleared number 9.
No, but we still do have Leon Bailey that needs to step up a little bit more. We still have Morgan Rogers that can find his way into the net. We still have got Buendia that has not gotten his playing time back. It's our defense. Okay, offense can't finish the job, but it's our fucking defense. That should have been 0-0, or we should have lost maybe by 1. Our defense is muddled and has no direction, and we keep getting injured on there.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, you had Konsa. I know Mings was coming back from injury. He's injured again now. You had Pau Torres. You had Diego Carlos. That looked like a strength.
Yeah, now Pau's off.
And now Carlos
Mings
is out.
is in and out with injury.
Carlos was sold. I mean, they're playing a bunch of people out of position.
Emmy's getting a little rattled and worn.
Making some mistakes. Well, it's the biggest thing, Mel, is yet again, after a Champions League midweek, you can't get a win.
Yeah.
That's been this whole season. You've gotten some draws, but you don't win when you play in the midweek for Champions League.
The boys might be fucked out a bit.
Yeah.
They're a bit tired. And
Overly fucked.
But that also speaks to some of the buys they made here in the transfer window, because I think they realized that if they're going to compete in these later rounds of the Champions League, if they're going to, you know, potentially make a move for top 4 in the Premier League, you know, they had to make some of these moves. And I like some Rashford, Asensio. I think the best signing of the bunch
Asensio, that's the name I couldn't say.
I think the best signing of the bunch is, you're always thinking about ass.
And then my mind went to McGinn, and then I was all confused again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the best signing of the bunch is Daniel Malen from, I think it was Dortmund, somewhere Leverkusen, one of those German. But I mean, he actually had a really nice game at the end, almost brought them back with a couple of late chances. He could probably play the number 9. So could Rashford. I mean, there's loads of talent there. We've seen it numerous times this year in Champions League and Premier League, other competitions. Just consistency.
Yeah.
So, crew, we are going to hold off on producer Mel's Malort shot until next week, because Danny's going to be here, and I feel it's only fitting to have Danny, a Wolves supporter, pour Mel her shot of Malort.
And when Danny's here, I have a question that maybe you guys can bring up for him next week. It's very important to the show. I want to know, has the Wang fallen out of favor?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I turned my mic on.
Has the Wang gone limp?
Yeah, the Wang isn't always, not everybody wants Wang, you know? Just, that's how it works. Not everybody wants Wang. Finally, Spurs get a win. took them fucking long enough, and it wasn't even that impressive.
And it wasn't in a place you'd expect them to win.
No. Well, that's the second point too. Is the Bees suddenly not a fortitude at home? This is now, I think, 3 of 4 they've lost in their building, like, you know, including the FA Cup exit. That was at home. The one that they lost to Plymouth. Like, it just. I don't think they're in trouble of going down, but I think they're in grave trouble of doing exactly what they did last year, which was the first half of the season be in the top 10 and then find themselves in 15th or 16th at the end of the season and just straight rocket down the table. And at some point, this is one of those things where if it happens earlier in the year and you have a bad start, it's going to catch up to you. And they need, I mean, obviously they work within a certain budget. They're very smart. They always seem to retool up top, and they always seem to have goal scorers, even when their best goal scorer gets sold, which they have sold over and over and over and over again. They have sold, like, most of the people scoring goals in the Premier League used to fucking play for Brentford in the championship. They all, like, Watkins being one of them, Mope, Buendia, like
Ivan Toney.
Like, these guys all fucking.
By the way, has anyone heard from Ivan Toney? Is he still injured, or because he got sold to Saudi, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
I haven't heard a word.
Yeah. Talk about a career that's.
He's getting paid, and that's all he cares about. Same thing with Duran. Duran's now going to go to Saudi, and nobody's going to care. But
21 years old, and he might have just flushed his career down the toilet.
Yeah, but he's also his kids now have money for the rest of their lives. It's like it's hard to say no to that. Sure. It's really hard to say no to. What is it? He's on $300,000 a week there. Yeah. Like. Anyways, they want to throw that money at you, take it. But, for Brentford, they're not looking good at home. And certainly, Tottenham, this was a desperately needed win, but I still don't feel confident in their second leg in the League Cup. Like, I feel like, even though they have the 1-0 lead on aggregate, I feel like they're going to get their asses kicked by Liverpool in the midweek.
So both of Tottenham's goals came from defensive errors. I noticed that Flecken didn't play, so they had in their backup, who's some Icelandic guy whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it ends with Son. And the first goal was just an unfortunate own goal off the back of, I think it was Jan Elt. Second goal was Brentford was pushing late in the game, and Tottenham took advantage. Right. So it was not a terribly impressive performance, as you said, by Spurs. But they got the job done in a place where you didn't expect them to. 3 points moves them that much farther up. Because, look, you were starting to talk about them and looking at the table and saying, could they be dragged into this relegation fight? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think that was ever going to be realistic. But they just needed a jolt of confidence.
Van der Ven's healthy again. Now the problem is the last time that Van der Ven was healthy, they rushed him right back into the lineup. I was glad that they didn't use him in this match and they just let him kind of continue recovering. He will make a massive fucking difference in that team.
I think they were saving him for this midweek match.
Oh, of course.
But this week just today, I saw that Dragusin, the other center back, ACL out for the year. He's done. So you get one in, one goes out.
Lose the other one again.
So, and they've just had I think Romero's still hurt. I don't know who.
Romero's still hurt.
So
even if Archie Gray in the middle is who it'll be.
Right. Who's completely not a center back.
Right. I mean, the kid's very talented, and he's played about as well as he can considering the circumstances. But you're right. He's not a center back, and he shouldn't have to be covering the league's best striker every week.
I'm pretty sure they made a center back signing from somewhere from France. I'll take a look here.
I saw that one. Yep.
Yeah. But so, I mean, reinforcements, if you're going to have injury issues, this is the time to have it. You can address those needs as necessary. So, I mean, look, I think Spurs will be well fine, and they're going to end up probably, 9th or 10th or something like that.
Right.
This game was definitely needed for them.
Yeah. Now, this was the worst possible time for Manchester United to face Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace matches up so well against them, and they have for a very long time now. For the last 3-4 seasons, Palace gets a win. They get at least one off of United, and this was just a well-executed game plan by Glasner's boys. Mateta with a goal. Like, you just sit back, withstand pressure, let them try everything they want to try, even experimental defensive midfielders at the fucking number 9 for some goddamn reason. That one made no sense to me.
Yeah, right.
Mino playing striker.
What was that? I don't know. They have 2 strikers on the bench who they eventually bring on.
Yeah.
What?
It's
The first, in the highlight package, I don't know if you saw it, but the first Manchester United related highlight was the 51st minute. Mm-hmm. It was insipid.
yeah.
I mean, at what point do we think that Amorim, I mean, he's had 8, 9 games, maybe more at this point. I mean,
He has this season. He has the rest of the season. They may switch out of him at the end of the year and go with somebody else in the summer.
Yeah.
But he has the job through the end of the year. They're not going to fire him because I think they also look at it and they realize
they don't have the players.
and they're it's part on their personnel. I'm shocked Garnacho didn't go out on loan today. Mm-hmm. I'm really shocked that didn't happen. I would have thought he would have been gone because he seems to be a bit of a locker room problem. And just you can't. I've said this before. I'll say it again with United. You can't just keep blaming the coach. It can't always be the coach's fault. At some point, these players need to be held accountable. And here's the sad thing: the petulant child of the group,
Bruno,
is the fucking adult in the room this season, which I don't understand. Like, he's normally the problem child, and I'm like, that's the rational one?
Yeah.
That's the one trying to lead the team? I mean, it's got to be pretty bad when Bruno Fernandes goes, hey, boys, y'all are kind of fucking this off. Let's get our shit together. Like, it's amazing.
United had 17 shots and 2 on target. Mm-hmm. They had 2/3 possession, so it wasn't like they didn't have opportunities, that they didn't have possession. But it was just blech.
I would also argue that is exactly the
way
game
Palace
plan
wants to play.
Glasner wanted it to be. Glasner is like, let them shoot the ball all they want as long as it's going in road Z. I don't fucking care.
Right.
We are going to wait till they fuck off and we're going to score. And then they're going to try even harder and they're going to fuck up even worse, which is what it's been.
Right. And they had a terrible injury to Lisandro Martinez there.
Oh, God, yeah.
Did not look good. And he was crying when he was being carried off the pitch. I mean, he's had some injury issues before. And that was the look of someone who thinks his career might have just gone down the window.
Yeah, which is terrible because he's a hell of a defender. He's a hell of a defender, and he's also one of those one of the few players. One of the few players that's been playing really tough and going out there and trying to make things happen. And in a organization full of petulant children, you hate to see the one that's actually trying be the one that gets hurt. Like, he doesn't deserve that. And if anything, the injury's probably I know it's because of what happened, but you're almost like, it's because some other jack-off didn't do their fucking job is why he's on the ground hurt.
Right.
You just can't help but think that it's an absolute mess. And frankly, this team honestly needs to go backwards to go forwards. Let's look at what Liverpool was before Klopp got there. They went drastically backwards to go forward. And that's what United needs.
This is an amazing stat that I saw. I couldn't believe this is true. Man United, and to be fair, we're talking a lot about Man United. Mm-hmm. Palace played a great game.
Yeah, they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
But Man United has the most home losses with 7 through 13 games in their history since 1893-94, when they weren't even called Manchester United.
Mm-hmm. Back when they were Mutiny, right?
Newton Heath.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's how bad they are. And I know we all love to shit talk the Man U people on the closed group and everything, and frankly, they bring it on themselves.
Oh, of course.
But wow, that's.
Watch them finish in 13th place and win Europa and be back in Europe again, and they get just enough money to not learn their lesson. What they need is a year of all they do is play league football. They need that's the kind of slapping, it's like rolling up the newspaper and smacking the dog in the nose for peeing on the carpet. That's what they fucking need. They need that kind of a wake up call. That's precisely what that organization needs. frankly, it's what their fans need. It's what their coaching needs. It's what their players need. They need an Erling Haaland humbling level. That's what they need. They need to stay humble, eh? That is exactly what they need to do. Chelsea find a way, and despite the fact that, frankly, Graham Potter had a masterful first half. West Ham looked fantastic in the first half, but they just couldn't hold on. And for Chelsea, you could say at least once they finally figured out a way to get a win as opposed to give away points.
Yeah, I mean, usually they went down 1-0 at half, and I still thought that they would get something out of this game.
Yeah.
The manner in which they did it, little surprising. I mean, they also had they changed their goalkeeper. Very interesting. But I mean, that first goal they gave up, terrible by Colwill. I mean, just turned and fired back to. I guess he was trying to get to the goalie. I mean, left it so short. Bowen, who I don't think anyone thought he would be back this quickly.
No, I didn't think so either. I thought they would let him rest a little longer.
So that's a huge boost for West Ham to get him back.
Well, and now that you give him a target with Ferguson, Ferguson doesn't even need to score and be
Although
good.
He's also injured, so I don't know how long he's on the shelf for.
But Ferguson at least opens up space for Kudos and Bowen to be able to do more.
Right.
That's what Antonio offered to this team.
Right.
He might not have scored a lot of goals, but
they gave him the space.
He attracted attention. Center backs had to pay attention to him, as opposed to maybe that right side guy sneaks out a little bit with the right back because Kudos is out there.
Right.
Or maybe the left guy sneaks out a little bit because Bowen's out there. Like, they were able to shut down those two tools. You put a big man in the middle, they now have to pay attention to him. And that gives more space and more opportunity to, frankly, the two players that make that team tick.
But both of Chelsea's goals in the second half were, I think it's fair to say, they were fortunate.
Oh, of course.
The wicked deflection that bundled back to Neto, who was, to his credit, he had followed through his cross. He had come into the box. Defender didn't follow him. Found himself in a pocket of space and, took care of business. The deflect Palmer on the winning goal. I mean, feel bad for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. It was just terrible deflection.
He did what he was supposed to do. He slid in and tried to get in front of the ball, and it just went the wrong way.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right.
But again, for Chelsea, what I say for Chelsea is they figured out a way to get 3 points. That is something they have not been able to do for the last 2 months at all with any consistency.
But this is not a win, I would say. This did not strike me as a win that's going to be like a confidence builder, something they're going to gain from. I mean, it's one of those that you're like, 3 points, we'll take it and move on, right? But it's not one that you're going to say, okay, this will lift us to higher, to higher ground, and hey, we're in Champions League position now, which they are. But it's not one that you gain a tremendous amount of confidence from.
Right. Well, the key thing here that I get from this is even with losing to City, still feel more confident in them making the Champions League than I do City.
Sure money.
Hey, everybody. Mr. Graham lost again. He's now down to $2,200 because he sucks at betting.
He lost? What?
Yeah.
Can't believe that.
Not good gambling.
Not good gambling at all. Now, for me, I did miss because Forest did their job. Yep. The problem was Ipswich didn't do their job at home. I clearly need to stick to Road Dogs because Road Dogs keep hitting for me. But I'm up, $1,223.
Big Sam's Lock of the Week.
Alan, did you know 31.818181818181818181% of the time? It works 100% of the time.
I was hoping for a round number.
Yeah, no round numbers this week. Now, but obviously it's FA Cup, and we're not doing any bets on the FA Cup on this show. But in the spirit of betting and gambling, and knowing, of course, that someone's a fucking Eagles fan here. Fucking asshole. Did I say that out loud? I did say that out loud.
You're still crying over the refs last week?
Nah, I don't care. I will say there was while the game was still close, there was a bad non-holding call that really changed the game. Yeah, and there is a history of that officiating crew not calling holds against Philly, but that's okay. It's whatever. It's no Mahomes. Let me say that, which is what you get to deal with this Sunday. But in the spirit of that, Mr. Brody, why don't you give us a little Super Bowl bet? I'm sorry, I can't. That's trademark. Oh, give me your bet for the big game.
Okay. So in the spirit of your co-host Sam Graham, I have several leg parlay.
9-way parlay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, not quite there, but I think the spirit, Graham would appreciate this. So I've done actually pretty well. This is actually real betting. I've done pretty well this year with my NFL bets. So here's what I've got. I've got Jalen Hurts 200 plus passing yards, Saquon to score. AJ Brown 70 plus receiving yards because if Jalen gets over 200, AJ will get 70. And then we've got Chiefs stuff. Kareem Hunt 40 plus rushing yards because that any 40 plus is nothing. Isaiah Pacheco under 21.5. They have basically not done anything. And Patrick Mahomes under 288.5 combined passing and rushing yards.
Okay.
That's a 6-leg parlay at plus 2,000. So $100 would pay off $2,100.
Not good gambling.
I will not be betting $100, but
Yeah.
nonetheless,
the Hurts and Brown that goes hand in hand because if Hurts doesn't get 200,
Right.
Brown doesn't get 70.
right. That's the thinking there. And Barkley has been amazing all year long, but I think that this is one where this is going to be a shootout. I really think so. I mean, the defenses are great, but something's got to give here. I think there's going to be, honestly, it's going to be like a couple years ago when they played and it was a shootout and it's just whoever makes a mistake or whoever gets a ref call, which we know will be the Chiefs.
Yeah, that would do it. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Brody, any parting words?
Actually, I do have parting words.
Excellent. Please go for it.
Well, so I'm going to go back to the beginning of the show when we were talking about Arsenal and City. And one of the things I noticed after the game is that there was more shithousery from a Haaland, but not Erling. It was former City midfielder Alfie Inge Haaland. Who happens to be
Say that again.
Pops. Alpha Inge? I'm giving my best Norwegian.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Very Norwegian.
Yes. So he responded to a post on X by Arsenal after the game where he was trying to make some reference about their lack of title trophies, and he said, the team that wins everything, not. It's like your boy just got absolutely manhandled.
That was the quote.
This team that wins everything, not.
Well, in
This team that wins everything, not. See, he's gonna do it in a Norwegian accent.
It does sound better in Norwegian.
his career get ended by an Arsenal player? I think so. I believe his pops had a career-ending injury, and it was, I believe, to an Arsenal player.
Well,
That's awesome.
yeah. So I think he probably's got some. But I mean, really, your kid's team just got absolutely mauled, and I mean, that's cuntish. I mean, that's not even shithousery.
Right. Be original when you do shithousery, like, fucking Vardy pointing at the Premier League and going, "We have one, you have zero," to Spurs. Like, that shit's funny. Do be witty with it and punch even, don't punch down, right? Like, if you're the team that has won a treble, if your son plays for arguably one of the best clubs currently in modern football, right? A team that wins everything, a team that they aren't, but it has a chance of winning a 5th straight Premier League title. That just doesn't fucking happen, right? Don't punch down.
Also,
just know you're better. Yep. Like, when you know you're better, just be better. You don't have to talk shit. We're better than you. Fuck off. Like, that's what it should be.
Right.
You know?
There is another cunt of the week.
Please,
and
shoot.
it's someone who has come up on the show numerous times. Perhaps maybe an all-star cunt or a cunt Hall of Famer.
Like that.
And that is, if we all remember back to the Women's World Cup of, was that 2022?
The Spanish guy.
You got it.
Oh, fuck.
Do you want to talk about it? So
No, I don't know. I don't know the story.
Well,
I've been avoiding the news as
good call.
limiting my news consumption.
it's not even so much that it's a new story.
What'd he do?
It's not new. There's nothing new about it.
Oh,
It's
she's just still cunty.
Right. The trial is going on, and so the woman who he groped, the player who he groped, was on the stand today, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to remind people that he is indeed a cunt.
He is a cunt.
I think that's a perfect way to end the show. So, everybody, next up is DU Does EFL, where we're going to recap the rest of English football, and then after that will be injury time. It's not going to be a preview show. This time we're just going to drink a lot of beer and talk about fantasy because it's FA Cup coming up. And if you want to check out our extra content, the best way to do that is patreon.com/DU Football Show, or as Mel likes to say, scroll down to the bottom.
Just scroll
And it's right there. The link's right there. Just hit it there.
And click.
Yeah. And $5 a month, you get sound check, which today we were talking to a touring band about life on the road. And then, we check the mics, catch up on everybody's life. And of course, then we do our injury time show. Lots of fun extra content. And honestly, that is directly the best way to help support us. So till next week, everybody.
Bye.